our history. We wake every day knowing that in the business of technology, you have to think about what are you missing? What is the research or customer feedback that you should be paying more attention to? And how do you keep that pace of innovation very, very high? How do you make sure you're hiring the very best people? And that kind of focus has helped drive us forward through all the milestones the company has had. Certainly the internet is a great example of that. We had to tear up our plans and step back and say, well, how do we really embrace all that's good about the internet and recognize some of the shortcomings and make sure we're leading the way in reducing what has held people away from the internet. Computers, when I was young, were super expensive, and my friend Paul Allen and I actually snuck into places at the University of Washington where they had computers that weren't being used at night. And so we were fascinated by what the computer could do, but very few people were getting exposure. We had to go out of our way, and we were lucky that we did it all. And so then when the idea of moving the computer onto a chip that Intel would make, and that would make the computer literally millions of times cheaper than the ones we were using, so both more powerful and available to people on a personal level, then the idea of, okay, it would be very different. The software you needed, the way the industry would work. We were super lucky to be there when that was happening.
So what did your family think? Did they say there's something wrong with this young man? He wants to just do computers?
They knew I was obsessed with computers, that I would skip athletics, that I'd go in overnight, that I'd leave the house sometimes when they prefer I wouldn't go work at night on these things. And so it was kind of considered a little strange. And the big moment was when I said, instead of going to part of my senior year, that I wanted to go work for a company writing software. So they were great about allowing that to be my hobby.
You are here with your daughter, who is 21, right? And you were 21 when you became a billionaire. Is that right?
Almost, yeah.
All right, so around that age, you were like the youngest person to become a billionaire. Is that right?
Yeah, in terms of my own, earning it on my own, yeah.
Right, okay, so, well, it's just the most important thing, yeah. So, when you were a kid, did you care about money, or you just cared about technology and it just happened?
Mostly I love software. I do remember at the private school I went to, there were other kids whose families were better off, like they had a Porsche or something, but it wasn't that big of a deal. My thing was that I just loved doing software, I loved hiring people, and I was stunned when it ended up being so valuable.
Really?
Yeah.
It surprised you?
Yeah, because I always had to be careful that we wouldn't hire too many people. I was always worried because people who worked for me were older than me and they had kids, and I always thought, well, what if we don't get paid? Will I be able to meet the payroll? So I was always very conservative about the finances. And then when we did go public, what was I, 30 by then I was kind of stunned at what it multiplied out to.
If you suddenly found yourself to be, say, a sophomore in college at Harvard, what do you think you would study, and how do you think you would spend your time engaging in activities?
Well, the thing that you're likely to be world class at is whatever you obsessed over from, say, age 12 to 18. In my case, it was writing software, where I would think I was good, and then I would meet somebody who would tell me I wasn't, and I would look at their code, and I went through 4 sort of comeuppances of, oh, that's what a really good programmer looks like. And part of the reason I worshiped digital equipment was eventually it was a couple of their very best programmers who came and shared with me how they thought about it, how they did things. And I had studied their code, and there were several people who were so key to my doing that. So today, I would go into software, which today that means going into artificial intelligence. Computers still can't read. They cannot take a book of information and say pass an AP test on that book. And that's a solvable problem, but it's a knowledge representation problem. And, I've always wanted to solve that problem. I'm jealous that maybe one of you gets to work on that. I'm likely to go back and be hands-on in that in that way, but it's the juiciest problem ever. I've thought about it for a long time. So I would go into AI. Urgency that I felt that if we didn't get Microsoft going right away, that somebody would do a great job building a software company, we won't have a chance. That probably ended up not being true, that I could have waited 2 or 3 years and the opportunity to do Microsoft still would be there. But anyway, I felt a sense of urgency. And, it's not like, I still get to take courses and learn things today, things like The Learning Company, and there's all sorts of great books. So it's not like I've missed some part of my education.
Right. When you dropped out, your father and mother said, "Are you sure you know what you want to do?" If one of your children dropped out of college to start a company, what would you say?
Well, I'd have to say yes, but the dropping out is not an irrevocable decision. If you try and start a company that doesn't go well, they always let you go back. Okay. And so if you don't have, kids that you need to support, it's a very low risk thing, particularly in the culture of the United States, where trying to start something and failing is not a black mark for the rest of your life. We think that progress can actually accelerate. The last 15 years have been wonderful, but the next 15, we can do more. And some people worry that when you talk about progress, that it'll reduce people's commitment to make things better. They think when you talk about progress that it shows you're naive and that maybe you don't realize all those things that are left to be done and how horrific they are. So sometimes that negative side of the story gets told, but you lose something very important if you only look at it that way. You lose the optimism about what's possible, and you lose the information where you look at the places that have done better than others, and you understand what is it about delivery, innovation, partnerships, caring, what has come together for the very best progress, and then spread that to the other places. That's what will help us drive at full speed. Well, this is a great time to be doing innovation because the tools of innovation are so much better. There are lots of things in biology that are very interesting. There are lots of things in energy that are interesting. Given my background, I would start an AI company that whose goal would be to teach computers how to read so that they can absorb and understand all the written knowledge of the world. That's an area where AI has yet to make progress, and it will be quite profound when we achieve that.